All of us would be best served by just backing off and staying cool and calm and, not sort of succumbing to the normal Washington Twitter about this for the next 24 hours.
John Kerry can blame Twitter, but this is one thing that tweets are not going to solve. This is General Stan McChrystal rollicking Washington today.
And he has been summoned back to the White House, where he will meet with the president tomorrow. But Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Carr.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest political news and analysis and insights, everything you need to know. And sorry, Senator Kerry, you can indeed Twitter us. It's twitter.com/thenode. John, kick us off.
Well, no place to start but here. Runaway General. As we mentioned, General Stan McChrystal, the commander in Afghanistan, has been summoned to Washington to explain to the president what he meant by this interview he gave. And actually, Rick, he spent a month with a reporter for Rolling Stone magazine where either McChrystal or McChrystal staff pretty much trashed everybody on the president's national security team, the ambassador in Afghanistan, the James Jones, the national security advisor. As a matter of fact, the only person that is not criticized by anybody in this piece that is of significance to the national security team is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, she comes off scot-free. This story is going to move in a lot of different directions, including, as you mentioned, this meeting at the White House tomorrow where Stan McChrystal is going to be taken to the woodshed. Clearly, he's got to explain why he did an interview like this, why he said these things publicly or even privately to a reporter. And I think the broader issue that this gets at is an Afghanistan policy that's under severe questioning right now on Capitol Hill and beyond. Stan McChrystal saying he doesn't really have faith in the civilian leadership at the White House.
And the big question here, Rick, is will McChrystal go? And I have spoken to some people that are very much in his camp who say this is absolutely a fireable offense.
Yeah, it's getting close to that. It's going to be interesting to watch the fallout. It is, though, runoff day. Voters in 5 states are voting. We love when voters vote here on Top Line. The biggest contest features Nikki Haley, who's expected to win the gubernatorial nomination on the Republican side over in South Carolina. That's going to be a big story because as the first, potentially first woman governor in South Carolina, also Indian American, a face for the new GOP. A couple of other interesting races, though. We have the potential for the first black Republican House member since 2002 down in South Carolina, and at least 2 other incumbents who are in danger of losing and adding to that growing list.
Yeah, and the one that I'm really looking at is Bob Inglis, who is a longtime member of the House, quite conservative by voting record, but he's been seen as a little bit too moderate. He had the temerity to actually criticize his fellow South Carolinian Joe Wilson for shouting out "You lie" in that president's speech. Next up, SCOTUS boycott. Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee, specifically Senator Sessions, the ranking Republican on that committee, are threatening to boycott next week's hearings on Elena Kagan. They're concerned that there are documents that still haven't been turned over, 1,600 pages worth from her time at the White House.
These things always turn on documents. This seems more like positioning right now. It's hard to imagine that Supreme Court hearings begin without any Republicans there, or without the ranking member of the committee there. But clearly they're trying to get their word out there that they're not happy about the degree of disclosure, although the White House will point out it's been unprecedented. The number of documents
in terms of number of pages, far more than any other
hundreds
nominee.
of thousands of pages, and I haven't read them all, have you?
Just about.
By Monday, certainly we will. And finally, extra care. The first big wave of healthcare reforms are on the books now, officially in effect 90 days after the passing of the law. These are things like ensuring that people with pre-existing conditions can get health coverage. The White House is going to let us know about it. They have an event today where they're going to highlight some of the success stories out of the healthcare bill. But the flip side is that a lot of these things haven't gone into effect right now, and there's significant uncertainty still out there about how quickly these reforms will get rolled out, whether people who want the insurance, need the insurance, will be getting it anytime soon.
And here's another thing. The Kaiser Family Foundation has come out with a new study showing 21% insurance premium increases for those who get insurance on their own. And you're seeing all across the country insurance premiums going up. You're seeing people losing insurance. A lot of this has absolutely nothing to do with the health care bill. This is, the economic times. This is long-term trends with health insurance. But let me tell you, if people are seeing insurance premiums going up or they're losing their insurance, who are they going to blame?
That's right. Only one guy. Well, one of the we're going to start with politics today, and someone who's going to have to answer for this and a lot more. It's tough year to be a Democrat. We have one with us today who's running for the Senate in Delaware. It's Chris Coons, who's the county executive of Newcastle County, Delaware, running as a Democrat for Joe Biden's old seat in the Senate. And I want to start, sir, if we can, with this interview that Stan McChrystal gave to Rolling Stone magazine. Obviously, if you're in the Senate, you'll be in the position of having to confirm people of this sort of position. Do you think he has to go? Is this a fireable offense in your mind?
Well, Rick and John, thanks for a chance to be on with you today, and thanks for a chance to talk with you about some of the tough issues facing our country. I haven't read the article in Rolling Stone, but from what you described at the outset of this broadcast, what General McChrystal is alleged to have said is certainly something that raises really hard questions. We have a long tradition of civilians being responsible for oversight of the military, and General McChrystal, if he's going to be the effective, engaged commander on the ground in Afghanistan, he needs to be, has to be respectful of the civilian authorities over him. I'm hopeful that that's going to be the outcome of his meetings in Washington this week.
Now, this comes as Congress is about to consider the war supplemental, the money, to pay for the war in Afghanistan. Of course, Joe Biden was one that was in the internal discussions quite critical of the idea of sending the kind of surge to Afghanistan that we saw. If you were in the Senate right now, where would you be standing on this? Would you be raising concerns about the billions of dollars, not to mention the loss of life in Afghanistan, or would you be a strong supporter of the current course?
I'm a strong supporter of the troops and of what they've done in the field. We've asked them to execute on very difficult missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they've done a terrific job. But like the Vice President, like many others in Congress, I'd be raising questions about really the ability to create the conditions on the ground that we need, and whether or not we really are continuing to advance America's security. I supported the idea of invading Afghanistan and taking out the Taliban after 9/11, but frankly, I think we have to question, given how much we've lost in lives and in money, whether we're continuing to contribute to America's security by staying the course for the long run in Afghanistan. I think it's time for us to begin responsibly winding up our engagement in both Iraq and Afghanistan.
As you know, you are atop the list of Republican potential takeovers this year, with Mike Castle, longtime congressman and former governor of Delaware, running on the Republican side. What is the key for you? How are you going to be able to turn the tide against what's happening nationally this year? Are you expecting to see some national help? Do you want President Obama campaigning with you? What do you have to do this year?
Well, Delaware is a different kind of place. Where I'm from, the Vice President, the President are still pretty popular, and Delaware is a very blue state. The folks in Delaware voted for change in 2008, and what I hear from people as I go up and down the state is that they're frustrated. They're concerned about jobs, about health care, about the environment, about our economy. And they want people in Washington who are solving problems. When they see Washington, they see a lot of bickering, and they don't see the progress, the change that they voted for in 2008. As I look at my opponent, my likely opponent after the Republican primary in September, my question is, how is he going to win? Because with his record in Congress over the last 9 terms, he's really been more part of the problem than part of the solution.
But hasn't Mike Castle been one of the few in Congress who's actually shown a willingness to work with the other side?
Well, over the last 2 years, if you look at his voting record, someone who has stood and voted against the stimulus, against health care, against the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, against the jobs bill, he is moving in a direction that isn't in keeping with Delaware and its core values. What I hear from folks up and down the state as I've been going to barbecues and picnics, to festivals and rallies, I'm hearing real concern about whether Mike Castle has lost the courage to stand up to congressional Republican leadership, or whether he represents a right path forward. I'm more interested in solving real problems, and my record as county executive in Newcastle County, our largest county, shows that I've been willing to cut spending, to make our community safer, and to take on real challenges and deliver the solutions folks are looking for.
What are you looking for Congress to do this year to help politically Democrats nationwide? You talked about this not being the change that voters wanted, and a lot of disappointment among President Obama's core supporters. What has to happen between now and November, in your mind, for Democrats to begin to make good on that?
Well, the first thing I'm concerned that no one's delivered on in Washington is real Wall Street reform. 2 years ago, there was this incredible meltdown in our economy that sucked huge amounts of value out of the retirement funds, the pension funds, and the home value of thousands and thousands of Americans, and that cost us thousands of jobs in Delaware. 2 years later, we still don't have real Wall Street reform. And I think that's a major challenge for my opponent. As someone who served for most of his 20 years in Washington on the Financial Services Committee, the Banking Committee of the House, he voted for deregulation time and time again, and then voted to spend billions of dollars bailing out the banks. But when he had a chance to vote for responsible Wall Street reform earlier this year, he chose not to. I think that's going to be hard for him to explain to Delawareans who are looking for that kind of change, for progress, whether on climate change, whether on independence from foreign oil, or whether it's on really bringing reform to Wall Street.
All right, Chris Coons, the county executive of Newcastle and the Democratic candidate for Senate in Delaware, thank you and good luck with your campaign. Appreciate it.
Thanks, and thanks for a chance to be on with you.
All right.
Thank you.